Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Association of the United States Army's annual meeting and trade show, the #1 gathering of U.S. Army leaders from around the world to discuss the future of the force, its budgets, doctrine, strategy, and training and technology, and more. Our coverage here is sponsored by Bell, a Textron company, Elbit Systems of America, L3 Technologies, Leonardo DRS, and Safran. And we're over here at the Army Futures Command Assembly area to talk to Colonel Joe Bookard, who is the chief of the Army Rapid Equipping Force, somebody who has a monumental task of fielding equipment very, very quickly to forces around the world as they need it. A 180-day charter that you have to deliver forces and capabilities. And I was going to say that you spent 15 years in the hard shooting part of the Army, so you know exactly what the folks downrange want and need. So talk to us a little bit about how your priorities are changing, right? The Rapid Equipping Force was born at the height of Iraq and Afghanistan to rapidly, frankly, circumvent the programs of record, get that capability to soldiers that leadership felt was not getting there as quickly as possible. You were the beneficiary of that when you were forward and operating. But now we're in a great power mode. So how does that great power competition element change how it is that you do your job, if at all, right? Because I think the fundamentals would still stay the same in a lot of ways.
Yes, nice meeting you again too, sir.
Good
The
seeing you,
fundamentals do remain the same. There will always be a warfighter deployed someplace in support of the America's interests. In addition with those warfighter interests, there are going to be priorities from the Chief of Staff of the Army about where he wants the organization to move forward. So when we look at rapid capability or rapid equipping, the priorities will remain, but one thing what we're developed to do, because we've learned in OEF and OIF, is that the time to get the immediate material solutions in the hands of the warfighter who's forward deployed will always remain. So as we grow the Army in terms of the Army's Futures Command, which is focused on concept development, future force development, we're at the opposite end in terms of the fielded force. So with the America's priorities and with the global presence, a soldier is going to be in harm's way at some point in time, and he or she may need a piece of equipment, and that's where we come in.
What are the most common requests, right? So generally when a request comes in, what are forces asking you for, or is the range as broad as a soldier's needs would be?
Well, the range is just as broad as the soldier's needs would be, but there's 3 areas that we really provide over my observation and historical records is mission command systems, force protection systems, and intelligence, or really the ISR components associated with the brigade combat team's needs.
You have a very ambitious charter of 180 days from a certified need to delivering the capability. At the same time, we've seen a massive push to accelerate the classical Army acquisition system, right? The Rapid Equipping Force was created to circumvent that system. So how does your relationship with ASALT, for example, change as that organization works to become faster and more responsive? I mean, is there a time when basically we don't need the Rapid Equipping Force if the classical acquisition pipelines are able to deliver capability more quickly?
So if you think about acquisition in 3 tiers, the bottom tier being the deliberate acquisition process or the traditional process, major programs or records, major developmental milestones. Then there's a middle tier called middle tier acquisition, where an organization like the Rapid Capabilities Office, who are working on those 2 to 5 year program requirements. But then there's the rapid acquisition community, and the rapid acquisition community is broad. Now, whether or not it's in the Army enterprise, we have rapid acquisition communities in each one of the services. But specifically for us, there is enough work because we have soldiers deployed forward where a mission command system, a radio or a piece of equipment to be able to see the electronic magnetic spectrum in terms of sense and attack still requires some type of research and development and testing before we can equip the warfighter with it. So those 3 tiers of acquisition will always be there for larger scale programs. What makes the REF unique is that we receive those requirements immediately from a soldier who's deployed forward or who's in the process who has an immediate contingency operation and he's preparing to deploy.
How are you going to be interfacing? you're a person who's got enormous combat experience, but at the same time are somebody who's an acquisition officer who knows about the acquisition process and parts of it that work and parts of it that don't work, and how to make it work for you or how to make it work for the soldier. Talk to us a little bit about how you're going to work with a Futures Command, because one of the questions that's come up over and over again, and we talked to the Secretary Esper about this, and he said, look, it's a work in progress, we're going to get the details ironed out. But one of the concerns is that some of the folks who are on the cross-functional teams are warriors of great experience who are going to help shape those requirements, but they're not acquisition trained, and so there's that yin and yang challenge that you face always between great acquirers and great requirements writers. Talk to us a little bit about how you're going to be working with the Futures Command, how you work with the cross-functional teams, and what yet has to still get straightened out or ironed out in terms of details, but very important details, about how that organization successfully interfaces with a massive Army acquisition system that still fields some of the best equipment in the world.
So, great question again, sir. I would start out to say that, I'm not an acquisition officer, but I'm a combat soldier. I'm a, branch field artillery, but I have some acquisition experience from previous jobs, at the OSD level, acquisition technology and logistics. So having a person who understands the needs of the guy on the ground and who's able to communicate an acquisition in 5,000 speak, one of those authoritative documents, or especially for us, the enclosure 13 in terms of rapid acquisition or prototyping, we have the ability to communicate over great space. So I think that there's enough work to go around in concept development for a future force and the immediate need of the warfighter today. So we still have operations in Afghanistan, still have soldiers forward deployed in multiple locations that are facing threats, and we need to be able to provide some type of response or some type of answer to their requests of support for those threats that they're observing. So in terms of the deliberate acquisition process, the REF is not in the business of making or modifying F-35s, or the Abrams battle tank, but the REF is in the business of ensuring that if there is a capability where there is a mortar base plate that's dug into the ground, and over time we know that as maneuver guys, how do you get that up quickly, or even to grander scale things in terms of the electronic warfare tactical vehicle that we currently equip the 3 Corps with. That vehicle came from a requirement from Forces Command where they identified, at the brigade combat team level and below, we're having some challenges in seeing the electronic magnetic spectrum. And how do we, be able to provide a piece of equipment that's mobile enough to stay with a armored brigade combat team's formation and still provide the, the ability to sense and attack, threat signals.
By the way, that's an amazing capability you guys fielded in a very, very short amount of time, and I know the Marine Corps has its version of it, a counter-drone system and an EW system that they fielded as well, again on a very, very short order. What are the keys from your standpoint to successfully achieving such a tight timeline, right? What are some of the rules of thumb that allow you to do it? Because the United States Army is one of the most competitive organizations in the world. So if I've told you you got 180 days, you're probably going to try to do it in 120, if not in 60 days, right? You're not going to figure like, hey, I have 180 days. Let's sip a pina colada here after work before you get that delivered. What are the key rules of thumb for you to take time out of the process and get the equipment to who needs it as quickly as possible?
So that 180 days is a REF internal goal. It's not an Army's goal. The Army's given us in terms of rapid acquisition, rapid equipping, zero, really a initial need today up into 2 years to include equipping and sustaining that organization. So inside our workforce, we do our best to strive for, if the requirements come in, let's put the right energy in terms of industry, academia, if it's governmental agencies, or if there's a piece of kit that's available today and the technology is relevant, how can we get that through, if required, the testing phase into the hands of the warfighter immediately? So that 180 days is internal goal from the REF, and I'd say over 16 years, we've been doing our best to, to stay committed to 180 days.
Colonel Joe Bookard, Chief of the United States Army's Rapid Equipping Force, helping soldiers every day around the world. Sir, thanks very much. It was a pleasure. Best of luck, and look forward to visiting with you guys and seeing how you guys make the magic happen.
We'll invite you out, sir. Thank you again.